Amid the crumbling ruins of a once thriving city, where the traces of civilization barely cling to existence, one man forces another down against the cracked ground. The one pinned down was a villain named San Hang. His breath came heavy, but he managed to smirk and said, "I knew it. You are not like those other worthless fools you were with." The man who pinned him to the ground was a hero. He told him to shut his mouth, but Hang pushed further, telling him to do what he came for. Kill him and end his life. After all, he was the only one capable of it. But the man refused. He said, "I won't stain my hands with your blood. I made a promise to my team that all the villains would face justice properly. They will be punished by the law, not by vengeance." Still, in the back of his mind, regret lingered. Maybe he should have killed him when he had the chance. News headlines soon swept the globe. San Hang, the infamous villain who threatened the entire world, has been captured and is sentenced to death. For maximum security, a superpower suppression device is locked on him, and he's confined deep in the 5th basement of Ruculus Prison, a facility that held history's worst criminals. Meanwhile, the heroes who fought alongside Gang Yucio were all gone, fallen in the battle to capture Hang. Their burial was set for tonight, a ceremony to honor their sacrifice. It may have seemed noble on the TV, but in reality it was the biggest loss of the history. Sitting in his room, Gang Yu can't even bring himself to watch the broadcast, but the TV behind him clicks off anyway. Standing there is his brother, Gang Ho Seo, the prison inspector. He tells Gang Yu to stop watching as he was still recovering and it would only reopen his wounds. Gang Yu stares down at his own hands, shadowed by guilt. He said to himself, "I should have killed him when I had the chance. I should have been the one to end that monster." Gang Ho reminds him of the promise their teammates made. Before that fateful mission, one of them had told him, "Heroes save lives. They don't take them." Even the worst villains were once human, and that's why they also deserved a trial. She made him swear that even if they died, he wouldn't break that rule. And he agreed. As a hero, it wasn't his place to execute anyone. That was the duty of correctional officers like Gang Ho. Gang Ho then shares something he probably shouldn't. Hang is scheduled to be executed next week, and he'll be the one to carry it out. He told his brother that he has done his part and now he should leave everything to the law and the correctional officers. Later, Gang Yu visits the funeral ceremony of his fallen allies. Flowers cover the site, along with messages demanding Hang's swift death. He places a single blue blossom among them. But 1 week later, at the day of Hang's execution, tragedy strikes. Gang Ho was killed and the man who murdered countless innocents survived. At the funeral, Warden Se Yunjo approached Gang Yu and asked to speak with him. She handed him a recording of the execution. On the footage, Hang recognizes Gang Ho as Gang Yu's brother as he looked a lot like him and notes that he doesn't seem to have powers. He asked Gang Ho, "Is that why he was a guard? Which one of them was older?" Gang Ho doesn't respond. Hang then asked how it felt to take a life. Being an executioner, surely Gang Ho had killed many criminals like him before. Hang said that for him it's really easy and he can show him. Just one touch and everything's ripped apart. Gang Ho said that they were nothing alike. Every time he pressed that execution button, guilt eats at him. Even though he only executed monsters that killed many innocent people, they still haunt him in his sleep. But someone had to do it. It's just the job. When asked for last words, Hang only repeats his twisted question, "Which one of you is older?" Smiling as the countdown begins. But at 1, the feed cuts. The warden explains that an EMP strike knocked out all the power, due to which Hang's suppression device also failed and it allowed him to escape. As the guards tried to restrain him, he killed them instantly, one touch and they exploded. He then approached Gang Ho, asking once more about which brother was older. Wounded but defiant, Gang Ho attacked but Hang ripped his arm like a paper. Even then he tried to fight back but Hang pointed his hand towards him and crushed him into a bloody mass. Then he said to himself, "Maybe I got it right." The EMP freed every prisoner in Ruculus. They managed to keep them contained inside, but many officers were also trapped, or already dead. Gang Yu asks who was behind the strike, but Se Yunjo said that she doesn't know. She apologizes for intruding on his grief but asks if he will help to end the riot before it spreads into the city. Gang Yu agrees but on one condition. He said that he won't go in as a hero but as an executioner. Maybe it was because he made a promise to his friends that he won't kill anyone as a hero. Soon, standing in the prison, he announces himself as the new corrections officer. The inmates recognize him immediately and asked why is a hero wearing that uniform? But they said that it doesn't matter because he'll die like anyone else. They rush towards him but he punches a hole clean through the first man and flings others aside with the shockwave. Then over his comms he issues an order. By the authority of the government, all prisoners from ground floor to fifth basement are sentenced to immediate execution. The inmates howl in outrage. Gangyu reminds them they've already taken countless lives. Why complain now? Some try to justify themselves. One says he only killed 12. Another casually admits to dismembering 7 people. Another committed unspeakable crimes against children. One, named Guan Choi, tries to slip away in the chaos, but Gangyu kicked off his head in an instant. Gangyu gives them 2 options. Put their suppression devices back on and await execution, or die right here. One scoffs. If death is certain, better to go down fighting. But Gangyu tells him this isn't a negotiation, it's their last mercy. At first, some prisoners lean toward surrender, until another, using his voice-amplifying ability, rallies them. He said that they have killed heroes before. If they work together, they can kill him too. He also says that Gangyu barely did anything in his group and has never killed a villain before. Maybe he was too weak and that's why they can easily take him out if they pull a joint attack. But he was wrong. It was the opposite. Gangyu was far too strong for anyone to handle, that's why he did nothing. Gangyu locked his eyes on him, and thought he must be the one the warden warned him about. Earlier, she explained Rukula's structure. The ground floor holds over 300 killers. The first basement, criminals who endangered whole towns. Second basement, city-level threats. Third basement, nation breakers. Fourth basement, continent level. And the fifth basement held only 3 prisoners that threatened the entire world, including Hang. But on the ground floor there's a unity, all under one man. His name was Hillis, whose ability strengthens those around him. Gangyu recalls Hillis's crimes, an attack on a hospital that killed 7, plus a hero named Hayes, totaling 8 victims. Hillis corrects him, it was 10 since the hero was pregnant with twins. Gangyu calls the warden, asking her if the prison can handle some serious damage. She assures him that the prison won't fall apart no matter what. Hillis assumes he's just bluffing. He powers up every inmate around him and sends them charging towards him. Gangyu shows just a small portion of his true powers with a single devastating strike. He follows it up by smashing the ground, sending bodies flying and the prison trembling. Hillis stares in disbelief. Nothing could stop Gangyu. He cuts through the rest like pieces of paper in a single slash, killing all of them. Declaring that he has cleared the ground floor to the warden, he turns toward the solitary confinement room. Along the way, he repeats the same warning to the remaining survivors. Put the devices back on or die. One of them pretended to comply, only to launch a huge explosion at him. Gangyu walked out of the smoke without a scratch, remembering something a captured villain once told a fellow hero. Those without physical abilities will never understand the thrill of crushing someone with their bare hands. Gangyu felt nothing from the carnage he had left behind. It was as effortless as crushing eggs with his fists. Eventually, he reached a large solitary confinement cell. Inside, a muscular monster was sitting seriously on the bench, but when he saw Gangyu, he stood up and moved a few steps towards him. This was Chuck Fielder, a notorious criminal locked away for countless acts of cannibalism and desecration of corpses. Sentenced to death, he looked genuinely pleased to see Gangyu again. So, it was you making all that noise. How long has it been? 3 years? With a mocking cheer, Chuck said, I'm really glad to see you found yourself a new job. Though you don't look too happy about it. Gangyu ignored the small talk and gave his standard warning, but Chuck's eyes gleamed. He said, I knew we would eventually meet again. I even remember the first time you caught me. You saw that pot of stew I made and I told you, go on, take a bite. You wouldn't get anything more delicious than human flesh. You were furious, ready to kill me right there, but that blonde teammate of yours stopped you. She didn't want you to stain your hands. I could tell you thought she was a fool. Weren't all your teammates just a bunch of fools? Gangyu had heard enough. So you're choosing to die then? Chuck tilted his head. Do you know why I kill? I don't care. In one swift motion, Gangyu severed his head. Yet even headless, Chuck's voice continued. I kill so they'll remember me. When I take a life, I become the only person that victim will ever think of again. And in that moment, I use my ability to engrave myself into their eyes, permanently. Even in death, they never forget. His ability was called hallucination. Chuck's grin twisted. I remember every single person I've killed. I can name them all right now. Gangyu aims for his head, but he cuts off his hand instead. Then he says, that's why you're here in solitary confinement. I was aiming for that ugly head of yours. Chuck got a little scared as his power wasn't as absolute as he thought. He laughed through the pain. Before I go, do you remember the people you killed on your way here? No, Gangyu replied. They were worthless scums, not worth remembering. With that answer, Chuck unleashed his ability. The space around them warped, and suddenly Gang Yu's dead teammate stood before him. Chuck wanted him to remember. Without hesitation, Gang Yu cut through the hallucinations like they were nothing. That's all you've got? Chuck stared in disbelief. You attacked your own friends without a second thought. Gang Yu said, they aren't my friends. They are just meaningless illusions created by you. And I'm not a hero anymore. I'm not one of them. I'm a corrections officer who only execute criminals. He kills Chuck without hesitation. But in his last breath, Chuck says, no, you're not an officer either. You're a monster who only kills. His words makes Gang Yu think for a moment. He looks back at Chuck's dead body and thinks to himself, these are the actual monsters who killed thousands of innocents without any reason. And yet, when it's their turn to be killed, they call me a monster. Far below, on the 5th basement floor, Hang lounged in boredom. The woman he had tried to kill wouldn't fight back, and thanks to her ability, he couldn't kill her. He muttered to himself, maybe I should head upstairs instead of rotting here. Somewhere else in an unknown location, a man turned to a woman with long hair. Miss Sinka, when do we step in? Sinka didn't pay him any attention. She was watching Gang Yu. He's going to be my husband. No matter what. Just look at him. He really is hot. I can feel his hotness even up here. And he is amazingly powerful too. The man beside her, Canis, frowned. Didn't you say earlier that Hang was going to be your husband? We fired that EMP to save him. Another companion, Gato, agreed. Yeah, and now you're calling him your husband? And I don't think he can be your husband anyway. He's a hero. He might kill you, but I'm sure he won't accept you. Sinka waved them off. He was a hero, but not anymore. Look at him now. Canis reminded her, he's still a hero, and an obstacle to mankind's progress. She corrected him, a former hero. And besides, I like them both. But since polygamy's illegal, I'll just marry whichever one survives. Back in the prison, Warden Se Yunjo approached Gang Yu, congratulating him for wiping out the ground floor so swiftly. She said that the deeper you go, the stronger the enemies will be. You should get some rest before going down. But Gang Yu replied, no, I don't need any rest. I'm going to finish this all as soon as possible. On the way, she hesitated, then asked for a favor. We're still picking up signals from correctional officers on the lower floors. If you can, please save them and help them get back to their families. Gang Yu asked, how many officers are alive on each floor? The warden replied, we don't know the exact number. Communications are shot, except on the 5th floor. It's almost like someone wants us to see the horrors happening there. She gave the order to open the 1st basement floor. As the door was opening, she warned him again. This level's criminals will be stronger than before. The moment the heavy steel doors opened, 2 muscular inmates slammed into Gang Yu from both sides while others hurled ranged attacks. Se Yunjo's eyes widened in alarm, but then she heard a voice which left her stunned. Worry about yourself. You're about to have plenty of problems. A hulking prisoner had crept up on her, gloating. Can't believe I caught the warden herself. Let's see that smug face now. He called for his friends to come see, but silence answered. They were all dead. A shadow fell over him. It was Gang Yu. With a single strike, he crushed the prisoner and sent him to his friends. The warden collapsed onto the ground, stunned into silence. Her eyes locked onto Gang Yu's, overwhelmed by the sheer force and presence he carried. For a moment, it almost felt like he had rizzed the warden without even trying. But before her thoughts could drift any further, Gang Yu cut through her daydream and said, stay away from open doors. It's not safe here. As he was leaving, she hesitated and wanted to stop her future husband from going any further. But then his earlier words echoed in her mind, and she swallowed her worry. She held it in and instead warned him about Tomoki. The villain Tomai captured is in the solitary confinement of this level. He said, I know, and moved ahead. In the high-security isolation cell on the 1st basement floor, several dangerous inmates had been listening to the distant chaos. One of them asked, what do you think? Did they make it out? Tomoki smirked. Idiots. Nobody makes that much noise unless they're tearing through everything in their way. She was here for killing 28 heroes, and now sat cross-legged, mocking the other for killing mere civilians. One of them snapped and said, you want to die. Tomoki's laugh was sharp. You've only killed civilians. Probably never even scratched a hero. And you think you can take me on? The man lunged, starting to transform, but he didn't finish and Tomoki's blade sliced him clean in half. I think that should have answered your question. She turned to the rest. I caught more villains than any of you back when I was a hero, Learned exactly how to take down people with powers. Then I used it to kill a bunch of heroes too. So join me and I'll teach you how to hunt them like dogs. As a bonus, I'll tell you Gang Yu's weakness. That got their attention. One of them asked, "How do you know his abilities?" "I was a hero once. I know plenty." He then frowned and said he was part of equality. Among the first-tier heroes, they were the most powerful, while you were merely a third tier. Tomoki chuckled and said the tier system was abolished long ago, remember? When Rosa became the representative of the Hero Association, she banned heroes from killing villains as the job of a hero was not to kill someone but to save them. She abolished the ranking system and considered every hero equal. By the time Gang Yu joined, no one knew much about him. Some said he had powerful connections, while others said that Rosa might be his lover. One man admitted, "I've never even seen him fight, but he wiped out the ground floor instantly. He's at least second tier." Tomoki waved it off. The ground floor was full of weaklings. Everyone in this room, with your thousands of kills, could have handled them. Even you, Speech. Speech, a gaunt inmate, smirked faintly. He'd killed 6,435 people. "I'm not saying Gang Yu's weak," Tomoki continued, "but I know his weakness. That's why we can bring him down. Stop hesitating. 'Cause you don't have much of a choice here. Either join me or meet him alone and die." One by one they all agreed to join her. Even Speech agreed on joining her, though he was a bit reluctant about it.